Dear viewers and listeners, welcome back to Legend Story USA. Once again, I am here with a brand new episode. Warm greetings and love to everyone who has joined us today, or will be joining later. I hope you are all doing well and staying healthy. In today's episode, we have two stories. Both are sure to send chills down your spine. So, let's dive into them. But before we begin, let me remind you of the usual words. Don't forget to press the like button on this video, and make sure to share the link as much as you can. I hope you'll enjoy today's story very much. It's a long one, so if you notice any mistakes in my writing, please forgive me. The story I'm going to tell you actually happened to my cousin, but I'll tell it as if I were him. There's a saying, bad company leads to ruin. That's exactly what happened to me. My name is Scott Ayan. Before I get into the main incident, let me give you a little description of myself and my family, because later you'll understand why I mentioned them. I come from a very simple household. My father is a carpenter. We live day to day, barely managing. I have two sisters and I'm the eldest child. My father struggled a lot to provide for our education. I had just finished my SSC exams and had enrolled in Polytechnic. I felt like I was slowly moving toward my dreams. I planned to do some tutoring to support myself and also to help my father a little. This was back in 2021. My college was quite far from home. From my village, only my friend John and I studied at that college. Everyone else went elsewhere. Because the distance was long, my father bought me an old bicycle so I wouldn't face transportation problems. Every day I used to ride that cycle to college. One day, while riding, I saw John walking, so I told him, "Hey John, where are you going? Get on, let's ride together." From then on, we often rode together. A few days later, John said, "Scott Ayan, since we're in the same class, studying the same subjects, and even live in the same village, why don't we just ride together every day?" I agreed, it sounded good. That way we could talk about studies or just chat along the way. Time passed like this until one day, John told me, "I need to tell you something important." I asked, "What happened? Is something wrong?" He replied, "No, but I like Elizabeth." I was shocked. "Elizabeth? Which Elizabeth?" He said, "Alex's sister, Elizabeth." I lowered my head and said, "Oh, I see. Now, I need to tell you something here. Elizabeth's family didn't have a good reputation, and who would know that better than me? She was my close relative." I tried to explain this to John. I told him, "Look, Elizabeth already has a boyfriend. You know that too." But John ignored me. No matter how much I tried, he didn't listen. Finally, I told him, "Fine, do whatever you want." About a month later, the real story began. It was early 2022, in the middle of harsh winter. One evening, after classes and coaching, John and I were riding back home. The Maghrib call to prayer was just about to start. The whole village was covered in dense fog. The cold was biting, and the road was completely empty, just the two of us on bicycles. When we reached close to our village, John suddenly said, "Scott Ayan, stop the bike." We were at a place called Tinrastar Moor, Three Roads Junction. Three roads met there. One led to our village, another toward the town, and the third went toward farmland and eventually to a distant village called Bilpara. John told me, "Give me the cycle. You sit behind. I'll ride." Without asking questions, I sat in the back. He started pedaling fast toward the farmland road. The deeper we went, the more it felt like we were entering another world. The fog grew thicker, the cold sharper, and all around we heard jackals howling and crickets chirping. After a long ride, we finally entered Bilpara village. I asked, "Why are we here?" John replied, "You'll see." He stopped in front of a house and said, "Get down, we're going inside." The house had a large tamarind tree in the yard, but it wasn't normal. The tree was wrapped with red, black, and white threads, and at its base there were plates of food. It looked like it was being worshipped. A chill ran down my spine. We walked toward a room with a light on. John called out, "Uncle Cotter, are you here?" An old woman came out instead and asked,
"Who are you? Why are you here?"
John said, "Auntie, please tell Uncle that John is here. I spoke with him on the phone." The old woman told us to wait. A few minutes later, she returned with 2 glasses of water and said,
"Drink this, but don't say Bismillah, and drink it with your left hand."
I got angry. I'm not the most religious person, but not saying Bismillah and drinking with the left hand, that didn't feel right. I ignored her instructions, sat down and drank it the proper way, with my right hand, saying Bismillah. John, however, followed her directions. When I handed back the glass, the woman stared at me with wide eyes. Then she said,
"Wait here."
She brought a bucket of water and told us, "Wash your feet and enter the room with your left foot." Again, I disobeyed. I washed my feet but stepped in with my right foot. Inside the room, I was shocked. The walls and even the furniture were all covered in red cloth. There was almost nothing inside except a bed. Sitting on it was an old man. I greeted him, and he replied in a way I'd never heard before. It was strange and unsettling. The old woman gave us chairs and we sat down. Then the old man asked John, "Did you bring what I asked for?" John pulled out a piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to him. The old man read it, then went to a corner of the room where there was a clay pot wrapped in red cloth. From it, he took a bottle of water. He muttered something over it and blew into the bottle. Then he asked John, "Did you bring my fee?" John nodded and handed him a 1,000 taka note. The old man took the money and gave John the bottle. John looked so happy, as if he had won something big. The old man told him, "After sunset, sprinkle this water around her house. That will complete 50% of the work. The other 50% is still left." At that, John's smiling face turned dark. The old man continued, "After the first step, come back to me within a week with 3 things: a piece of her used clothing, a strand of her hair, and a piece of food she has eaten. If you fail to bring these within a week, it will never work again." John said firmly, "I'll get them, no matter what." The old man looked at him and said, "Good. But your friend here, he's too clever. Being that clever isn't always good." The old man told us to leave and said to step out with the left foot. John followed his words, but I couldn't. John and I rode our bicycles toward home. My mind was filled with thousands of questions. Out of curiosity, I asked John, "Hey John, is that old man some kind of shaman or witch doctor? And why does he always talk about using the left hand, the left foot and all that? What kind of man is he? And what business do you have with him?" John gave me a small smile and said, "Friend, hold on. I know you've got a lot of questions. You're my best friend, so I'll tell you everything. Listen, my family is in danger. That's why my father sent me here. But you must not tell anyone, not even my mother, okay?" I replied, "All right, fine. But why did that old man ask you for hair, cloth, and pieces of food?" John stuttered. "Oh, those things. They're nothing. I don't know much." I didn't press him further, though my mind was restless with questions. Soon we arrived at my house. John handed me the bike and said, "Friend, don't tell anyone." I assured him, "Don't worry, I won't." He went his way and I went mine. Almost a week passed. On a Saturday after coaching class, John said to me, "Skadeon, today we have to go to Bilpara." I said, "I'm not going." But John was stubborn. He wouldn't go without me. After much pleading, I finally agreed, but with one condition: I won't enter the house. John agreed, and we rode our bicycles through the narrow path between endless fields. Eventually, I told John, "Go inside, I'll wait outside." He nodded and went in. While waiting, I noticed something strange. This house had no sign of modern life. No electricity, no TV. Only 3 small houses, but inside I saw just 2 people,
An old man and an old woman. No one else. And there were no other houses nearby, just open fields and water bodies. It was eerie. How could two old people live here alone at the very edge of the village? As I was lost in thought, suddenly someone tapped my shoulder. Startled, I turned and saw John. "Come inside. They're calling you," he said. "I told you already I won't go inside," I protested. "I don't like their strange rules." John pleaded, "Friend, this is the last time. For my family's sake, please." I couldn't refuse anymore. I entered with him. This time they didn't take us to the same room as before. The old woman led us to a bigger room under a tamarind tree. As soon as we stepped in, she frowned at me. "Wait, what's the hurry? First, wash your feet and drink water before entering," she scolded. I snapped back. "I can't eat or drink without saying Bismillah, and I won't use the left hand or left foot for such things." John tried to calm me down. "Relax. Let's just go inside." Inside, the room smelled strongly of incense. Candles burned in every corner. On one side sat the old man, eyes closed, on a wooden seat. Sensing our presence, he opened his eyes and asked John, "So, did you bring what I told you?" John handed him a red cloth bag. The old man pulled out 3 items, some hair, a piece of cloth, and half-eaten chicken fry. The moment he saw them, he shouted, "Who told you to put these in a clay pot?" Then, calming himself, he said, "Listen, I'll be back after finishing a task. No matter what happens outside, don't leave this room." He and the old woman left, locking the door behind them. Suddenly, a violent storm began. Wind roared like it would tear the house apart. John sat, trembling in fear. Through the storm, the door burst open. I saw the old couple under the tamarind tree, performing some ritual for a demon. Several black figures circled them. It was terrifying. I rushed to John. "What have you dragged me into?" He was too frightened to answer. The storm lasted 15 to 20 minutes. Then, silence. The couple returned, smiling slyly. The old man looked at me and mocked. "What's the matter? Scared?" Then he turned to John. "Your work is done." He handed John 2 amulets and said, "Listen carefully. To use these, you must remove all clothes. 1 amulet on your left hand, the other on your waist. And on that night, you must wear nothing else. Can you do it?" John replied firmly, "Yes, I can do it." I burst out, "Are you insane, John?" But John shouted at me, "Shut up!" I was stunned. This wasn't the John I knew. The old man then added, "Before wearing the amulets, take 2 threads from the tamarind tree root, 1 red, 1 black." We stepped out, and I was horrified to see chickens, a quail, a pigeon chick, and even a snake sacrificed under the tree. Blood and vermilion everywhere. "John, this is pure black magic!" I cried. John only gave a faint smile. "No, Kadir uncle is a good man." "Good man? Really?" The old man shouted from inside. "Did you take them?" John replied, "Yes." "Good. Now leave quickly, it's late. And remember, don't ever mention my money." We left with the threads and amulets. Weeks passed. One day, John and I were sitting in the college field when Elizabeth appeared. John liked her, but she never liked him. Instead, she liked someone else. That day, she asked to speak with me privately. As John walked away, he gave me one last smile. Later, rumors spread that John and Elizabeth had grown close. I kept silent. Then, on March 15th, 2022, while returning home near the 3-way road, I saw the same old man again. He waved me down and said coldly, "Where's my money?" "No one has ever escaped paying me. You won't either. I had mercy on you, that's why I came myself. I never ask anyone for anything. Give me the money, and I'll leave." Hearing the old man's crazy talk, I became angry and snapped. "What nonsense are you saying? Why should I give you money? And why are you telling me all this?" The old man replied, "I don't know. My money is with you. I'm telling you nicely, give me the money." I shot back, "I don't have any of your money." "Didn't John pay you?" The old man's eyes blazed with fury. "You two are making fun of me, aren't you?" he roared. Before I could react, he grabbed a fistful of my hair so hard it felt like my scalp would tear away. I shoved him, calling him a madman. He stumbled back, muttered something in another language, and walked off toward Bilpara. Shaken, I ran my hand over my head. Tufts of hair had been ripped out. Without thinking, I headed for John's house, but he wasn't home. Dear listeners, I knew then that after this day, my life would never be the same. Let me summarize what happened next. After returning home, I fell gravely ill. So ill that I spent 3 months in a hospital bed and still didn't recover. What happened after that will be told by my cousin, Liam. Even after 3 months in the hospital, Scott Aon, me, was not improving, and our family was running out of money. You all know Scott Aon's father worked small jobs. When Scott was finally brought to our, Liam's, home, another nightmare began. Scott started doing insane things, trying to hang himself, cutting his own arms and legs, attacking people. His father took him to a mental hospital. After examining Scott, the doctor said, "We'll have to keep him here for a while. His condition is serious." Scott's father wiped his eyes and agreed. Week after week passed. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 months. But Scott wasn't getting better. To keep paying for treatment, Scott's father even sold their land. Still, nothing worked. Eventually, the hospital discharged Scott because his condition was deteriorating. He refused to eat and, tragically, became paralyzed. The doctor explained, due to severe anemia, the nerves in his arms and legs have dried up. We had done everything within our means and finally lost hope. Until, one day, a spark of light appeared. There's a saying, if the Creator protects you, who can harm you? A famous shaman arrived in our village. People whispered that he was very powerful, capable of solving anything. Hearing this, Scott's father and I went to see him. "I can't go now," the shaman said. "I have to attend a religious gathering." But seeing our tears and pleas, he agreed to visit Scott. Stepping into our house, the shaman exclaimed, "This place has become a den for something dark. How have you been living here?" He entered Scott's room. One look at Scott and he screamed, "How is this boy still alive?" "What happened to my son?" Scott's father cried. What the shaman said next, none of us were prepared to hear. This boy has been cursed with black magic. Very bad black magic. There are levels of black magic, and this is the lowest and dirtiest kind, performed with the help of the chief of unclean jinn. I cannot treat him here. Bring him to my madrasa Friday morning. On Friday morning, we took Scott to the shaman's madrasa. He can't sit, the shaman said. Lay him here. He drew a circle around Scott and began the ruqya, spiritual exorcism, with 15 other shamans. We waited outside. We heard noises, thuds, and strange sounds coming from the room. After about an hour, the shaman emerged, his face grave. I told you before, Scott is under black magic. And not just any magic. This type cannot be done by an ordinary person. To summon this jinn, a human sacrifice is required. The sorcerer who did this sacrificed 3 of his own children to gain the jinn. This jinn has powers no other jinn possesses. It's the leader of jinn, and it keeps returning because it is unclean and unclothed. Then he asked, "Do you know why Scott was cursed?" because Scott and his friend went to a sorcerer to cast black magic on a girl. They promised the sorcerer all their money if he made the girl theirs. They said if it didn't work, he'd get nothing. The magic worked, but they never paid him. The sorcerer went to Scott's friend many times. The friend said, "I already gave Scott the money. Take it from him." So the sorcerer started searching for Scott. One day he found him and demanded the money. Scott, confused, didn't understand. And from that moment, the sorcerer's rage began. He took his revenge in the most horrific way, by turning his black magic on Scott. The shaman stopped, sighing. "This story is long and heavy. Forgive me. Dreams are small, but reality is vast." Scott Aeon is now somewhat better, but will never walk again. Now you understand why I said at the beginning, bad company leads to ruin. John and Elizabeth have been married for a few months. Pray for them. I know John destroyed my life, but I leave his judgment to God. Pray for me too. Some may ask, why didn't you take action against John? The truth is, his family was powerful in our area. We couldn't do anything. I'll end with this advice. Never join your friends in something you don't fully understand. As for that old sorcerer, we've learned a lot more about him. I'll tell you another day. My name is David. I live in Texas, USA. This story I'm about to tell you was something I heard directly from my Uncle Robert. The events actually happened to him. I'll narrate it just as he told me. The year was 2013. At that time, I was in my first year of college. Being the youngest in the family, I was pampered a lot. Like my friends, I kept insisting on having a touchscreen mobile phone. Finally, my father bought me a brand new phone for 15,000 taka. The moment I got it, I opened a Facebook account. Since the cell tower was far from our house, the network signal wasn't great. That's why, sometimes, I used to go outside to browse Facebook. One evening, after the Maghrib prayer, I was sitting in front of a small shop outside our house, listening to music with my headphones and scrolling through Facebook. Suddenly, I noticed an old woman standing right in front of me. She had approached quietly from behind. For a few moments, she just stared, then smiled in a strange, unsettling way. She was short in height, dressed in a plain white sari. Her face was pale, completely drained of blood. Startled, I quickly pulled out my headphones and looked up, but she was gone. I looked around, but there was no one. My heart raced. Terrified, I ran back inside and told my mother everything. She got upset and scolded me. "If you go out after dark, things like this will happen." She recited a prayer and blew on me. After that, nothing else happened. I was really good at fishing. It was more of an obsession than a hobby. Often, I would go fishing at night with my friends. One day, my friend Michael and I decided to go fishing late at night. That evening, there was an Islamic gathering in the village. After listening for a while, I came home and fell asleep. Around 2:30 a.m., Michael came and woke me up. Together, we picked up our fishing gear and headed to a nearby lake. That night, we were catching a lot of fish. The deeper we went, the more fish we found. But strangely, Michael was unusually quiet. Normally, he would keep talking non-stop, smoking one cigarette after another. I said, "What's wrong? Why don't you light a cigarette or sing something?" He replied flatly, "I don't feel like it." "Just keep fishing." I was surprised. Later, when I asked him for a cigarette, he said, "I don't have any." That shocked me even more. Michael never went fishing without cigarettes. After a while, I noticed he kept urging me, "Go further ahead, keep moving forward." When I lit a match to start a cigarette for myself, in that brief 5-second flash of light, I froze in horror. Michael's feet were not human. They were twisted and monstrous. That's when I realized this was not Michael. It was something else, something terrifying. In a deep, angry voice, it growled, "Keep moving forward. Don't waste time." Though terrified, I pretended to stay calm and walked alongside him, but his face began to change. Michael's features slowly melted into a horrific dark shadow. Suddenly, in a thunderous voice, it roared, "Tonight I will finish you." I began reciting every prayer I knew. At that exact moment, I heard my mother's voice calling my name. In the distance, the call to Fajr prayer echoed through the air. I ran for my life. Behind me, I heard terrifying howls and the sound of a storm raging. I kept running until everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I was at home. My head was being splashed with water, my mother was crying, and a religious scholar was reciting prayers over me. Later, I found out the truth. That night, Michael had never gone fishing. He had come home from the gathering and fallen asleep, which meant the Michael who had taken me to the lake was no friend. It was a jinn. The next day, my father took me to a respected religious scholar in the area. After examining me, he said, "You were attacked with black magic. The jinn that appeared to you was very powerful, but the call to Fajr prayer saved your life." At the end of the story, Uncle Robert said to me, "Many more things have happened in my life. I'll share them another day." For more terrifying stories, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Legend Story USA. We hope to go far together. For today, I'll end here. Stay well, stay safe, and always stay with Legend Story USA.